Hey guys, it's Kenya and I am back with a video after a while. I swore I wasn't going to like wait like a month or so between videos. I feel like in the last video I was like, oh, I'm gonna be more consistent, and then life happened, right? And I just been like grieving, and like school's been busy, life's been busy, so I just haven't really had time, or I couldn't figure out what to talk about, or like I wasn't prepared to talk about some stuff. So here I am in my attic because I feel like I needed to get my room. I have finals coming up, 2 weeks, so I need to study, but like I wasn't really trying to go to the library. I was in the library last night and like it wasn't working, it wasn't helping. So I'm in the attic trying to see if a different setting could get me started. So yeah, if you haven't noticed, I straightened my hair, right? Because when my hair is straight, it's easier to go throughout my busy week. So I straightened my hair. I'll probably wash it. I thought I was gonna wash it this weekend. I straightened it on Monday, I want to say. And I was like, oh, I'll just wash it this weekend. I usually don't keep my hair straight for longer than a week because I feel like I always have to wash my hair. But I might keep it an extra week. And then for like the last week of school, I'll probably be back to curly because all I'm really doing is like studying, right? So anyway, today is December 2nd, 2021. It is Thursday. I have to go to work later. Yesterday was my youngest sister's birthday. She turned 10, which made me feel very old. And then like we're just talking, chatting or whatever. Just told me how she's about to go to middle school next year, and I'm like, whoa. I feel very old. So yeah. Anywho, what is the purpose of this video? My hands are dry. Wow, I have lotion in this bag. My hands are dry. Also, I'm probably stalling to get to my next point. So today is December 2nd. I'm not sure what I am titling this video right now, so I have no idea if you even know what I'm about to talk about. But just a little life update. On November 12th, my grandmother passed away. As you guys know, she was battling colon cancer that like spread to like her lungs and her liver, and her breast, right? But like the major focus was like in her colon area. So she found out about the colon cancer in January 2019, I want to say. And then I remember I was told at the end of January when I had came back from Arkansas, like from a trip. And then I remember I started school immediately after because I'm like, oh my god, I want her to see me graduate. I want to like accomplish something. I need to accomplish something because, you know, like when I first went to college, she was just saying how proud of me she was, and I just wanted to fully complete that thing that she was proud of me doing, right? I wanted her to see at least one of her grandkids graduate. So I had started school. I found out about the school that I go to now. It was like an accelerated program. You had to like take a TEAS test or whatever. I'm pretty sure I said this in like another video. So yeah, I take a test. I did that like, I want to say maybe like April-ish or whatever. Found out I got in May, started that September, right? And then like literally that same year, that's when she had wrote me a whole bunch of notes, right? And they said a whole bunch of things. They were like, Kenya, I'm so proud of you. Kenya this, Kenya, I love you, a whole bunch of stuff. She wrote me a whole bunch of notes, and I got one tattooed here. I probably can't pull up my shirts high enough for you guys to see. I'm pretty sure you've seen it in other videos, but yeah. So I got this one. It says, Kenya, I am so proud of you, Nan. So I got that one literally the day before I started classes, my first week of nursing school. I got that literally the day before. So I was like, and then I feel like in the back of my mind, I had a feeling she wasn't going to make it to my graduation too. Or I had a feeling towards the end, it was just going to get very difficult, and it did. So like this past few months actually were like really rough. I want to say maybe in like August, she had surgery on her liver. She had to get surgery on one side of her liver, and she had like a really bad reaction to it, right? So like my family was like freaking out, so like different like people just rushed to her, and it was like kind of paced out. And then I was gonna end up driving because I was like so scared. I was gonna drive from Connecticut to Georgia, and then like one of my friends at the time was like, no, like that's not safe. And I'm like, bitch, listen, tomorrow I will be in my car. Like I'm driving. And then without me asking, they had got me a ticket because it was someone that like knew my information. So like they got me a ticket without me asking for it, and I'm like, all right, well, it's convenient, so I'm just gonna go. That's a mistake in its own. Like I've learned to not accept anything from anyone after this one person. But what happened? So we went. She was doing okay. Like she was talking, you know, she was walking around. It was funny because when we were down there, like my mom and like one of my aunts was down there, and they would leave and she'd be like, I'm so glad they're gone, like they're getting on my last nerve. And like we were just laughing. I was talking, like we went and I got her like food, like we would eat together, like cook together, all this stuff. It was like really great. So yeah, she was like moving around, she was walking, talking. She was just in pain, so she couldn't be up for too long. And then like literally every time, even like before I found out she had cancer, when I would go visit and it was time for me to leave, like I would just be sobbing because she's my favorite person. And she would start crying, I would start crying. It was a whole thing. So I remember I left that time. I was just crying. I think I cried more so like once I found out, because like I never knew when it was the last time. And then sorry, I'm more so trying to catch my breath. I know what I'm gonna say, but I'm trying not to cry in this video because I got stuff to do. Okay, so like I remember she was crying, and you know, she tried to make a joke out of it to lighten up. She was like, when your mom and your aunt left, I didn't even give a damn. I was like, let them leave. Like, but like with me, she always cried. And she was very sweet, because I remember there was this girl that like I was really into at the time, and I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, when we go back, like I want to bring her to Six Flags and and I think I had a video up and deleted it, and then like there was like an apology video afterwards with that situation. So I remember she gave me like all this money. She was like, oh, do this and do that, and I'm like, all right, thanks, Dan. But as you know, that turned out terrible. What happened? So then after that, as far as my grandmother, so that was August, and then she had to get the other side done, and that one was really, really bad. So I want to say she got the other side done in September, and I don't think I flew out that time. No, I don't think I flew out that time. I'm trying to remember. Oh, my memory sucks. I feel like I've been like mentally blocking a lot of stuff that like deals with her, so I don't really necessarily remember. Yeah, I don't think I went out in September. And then October happened, and my grandfather called everyone crying. Well, I don't think he was crying necessarily. So he called my mom and my aunts crying, and he's like, listen, she's confused, she's not moving, she's not walking, like, you know, like she's in and out, like she'll know who he is and then she won't. Like it was very scary, and my grandfather, he's not someone that cries, so it was just like, oh snap. So literally my whole family at once rushed to her. My aunt paid for my ticket because they already knew like I was coming, so my aunt paid for my ticket. Everyone flew out, like my whole family was staying in my grandparents' small apartment, so we're just like what do we need to do to help? And like there are certain aspects about that trip that made me frustrated with my family, and like my mom was just trying to explain how like different people cope differently. But like when I went to see her at first, I remember I walked into the room and I was like, hey Nan, like, you know, and she was just like, hi, right? But like she didn't say my name or anything. And she was in bed and she was just watching TV, and then she got fine, right? She was like, Kenya, like, you know, whatever, like, you know, she was talking or whatever. Like some of my family members, they would come in and talk to her, like I was talking to other family, spending time with them, but most of the time I was like just in her room. And a big reason too why we're there is so my grandfather was able to go back to work, because they have bills and like medical bills and all this to pay for. So so I was just in her room with her. I had already emailed my school like, listen, I'm gonna be gone for this week, like I have a family emergency, blah blah blah. Like they excused me, but like when I came back I still had to study because I had exams and all this other stuff. I had exams when I was coming back, so I still had to study. So I think it was in that trip I knew like I knew like it was coming. So okay, so like it was funny too, because like, so during the day she was good, and then once like the evening rolled around, like she just started forgetting stuff, and she wouldn't be able to get up, like she wasn't eating a lot or anything. And I remember I was sitting, like she had like this reclining chair that like we would transfer her from the chair to her bed or whatever. And so while she was in bed, I was like in a reclining chair, and like we would have like TV on and she'll be watching the TV, but like she was just confused. And she would like the first day she kept asking, she's like, who's all here? I'll like tell her names or whatever, and she'll be like, okay. And then like she was like, I don't want you to get scared, but where am I? Right? And I was like, oh, like you're in Georgia, you know, we're at your house, like, you know, like y'all came to see you. And she was like, oh, okay. So then she was just like quiet for a while. So I'm just like, so I was just like studying. Sorry, my voice is freaking cracking. Can I have water? I do have water. Okay. So so you know, like she would just randomly ask random questions, and then she'll just be quiet for hours. And I'm like, Nan, you want to eat? Like, you know, you gotta go to the bathroom. And she's like, no. Like, you know, we would still like bring her like toast or something. She'll eat a little bit of toast. Like one morning she even joked, she's like, can you please like not burn the toast? Because like my youngest cousin made it, I guess, once and just burnt it, like it was just black. So she was like, can you please just not burn the toast? Like, or you know, like she was in and out, like she was herself and then she wasn't. So there was one day she just wasn't talking. Even in the morning she wasn't talking, she wasn't saying anything. Like, you know, so I'm sitting in a chair, I'm studying, and it's just me and her in the room. And randomly I just hear Kenya, right? So I'm like, so I like jump up thinking like something's wrong, and I like run over to her. I'm like, yeah, Nan, like what do you need? Blah, blah, blah. Like, are you okay? Right? She's like, yeah. Are you planning on having kids anytime soon? And I'm like, what? Like, I'm over here thinking like, I don't know. And I was just like, yeah, you know, like in the future I will for sure. And she was like, oh, okay, like when? And I was like, I don't know, like before, you know, when I was in a relationship, we had planned before I was 30 that, you know, I would have kids, right? Because at the time the person was older and they wanted kids before they turned 30, and then I was gonna have a kid. So I was like, you know, I planned before, and then, you know, things fell apart. So I think more so me now, I'm just going to, you know, like once I graduate, I'm just gonna pay off some debt and like, you know, travel a little bit, and then like, even if I don't meet someone, like I'll figure it out, like I'll have a kid. And she was like, oh, okay, like what do you want to have? And I was like, I want to have a girl more than anything. And this is stuff she knows, right? But I was like, I want to have a girl, but if I have a boy, it's fine. And she goes, what are you gonna name them? Okay, sorry, I needed a moment. So she goes, what are you gonna name them? Right? So I go through the names, and I'm like, Nan, can't tell anyone these names, right? These are my names that I'm gonna name my kids, right? So I have a name for a girl that I'm like set on. Like I've been set on for like a few years now. Like if I had a girl, this is gonna be her name. And I was like, but Nan, if I have a boy, like I don't know, right? Because I never really saw myself with a boy, but you know, if I have a boy, I don't know. But here's the list of names, right? So I went through a list of names, and she told me which one she liked the most. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna name them this. So she was like, oh, okay, and then she would sleep, right? God. So like after that, she was just mute. She didn't say anything else, right? So, but she would still like look at us and like smile if we talk to her, or if you'd be like, I love you, Nan. If you were be like, you know, hey, Nan, I love you, or whatever, she'll go, I love you too. But she wouldn't remember. right? Like she wasn't, like she was more so responding. And it was funny because like my aunt showed, like she FaceTimed my grandmother's, it was like her great grandchild, right? So my grandmother has three great grandchildren, right? So that was when she FaceTimed her, and like she showed her Nan, and Nan was like alert. She was like talking to her or whatever, right? It was like so amazing to see, like seeing her triggered her to be alert. So like the call ended, and she looks at me, and my guy cousin was sitting there, and she goes, you know, I have the right to decide. And then she stopped talking, and she just stared off. And I'm like, you have the right to decide what? Like, you know, like what were you gonna say? And she was like, huh? And I was like, you started to say you have the right to decide. And then she looks at me and she was like, I don't remember. And I was like, oh, okay. But I feel like she was saying she has like the right to decide her own health choices, because she said multiple times like she's ready to go. And then like we kept bringing her to the hospital, bringing her to do all this, and bringing her, and she was just ready, right? But we all are like, no, if there's a way to help you, we're going to do it, which is selfish, but that's how my family is. So anyway, so it got to a point where it was like my last day there, and her fever was like really high. She couldn't control her bladder. She couldn't get up. She couldn't move. She couldn't respond. She didn't know who we were. Like she was just quiet. Like it was really bad. So my grandfather like rushed home from work, and we're like, all right, we gotta bring her to the hospital, right? But they live in an apartment on the 3rd floor at that, and there's no elevators. It's just like outside stairs, and she can't walk. So we're like, okay, how are we about to get her from her bed to the car? So we had to like wrap her in the sheets, and literally me and my other like 7 cousins and like my aunt and my grandfather, we had to like lift her and like carry her. And it was probably like the scariest part of my life, because we were all like scared to drop her. So we all got like a death grip on this sheet, right? Well, it's like double sheeted or whatever, but we have like a death grip on it. And then outside it's cement stairs, right? And they're narrow. And you think, well, this is all of us, right, trying to like carry her. So it was like very scary. And then it got to a point where like I had to like stand, I had to let go, and like my cousin like took the other part, and I had to like guide them because they couldn't see the steps or anything. So I'm guiding them down the stairs, and I'm like locking eyes with my grandmother, and she's looking scared, like she's terrified, and she's just like staring at me, like dead at me. And I'm just like, it's okay, Nan, it's okay, like you're just bringing to the hospital. And she's like, where am I going? Like I don't want to go, where am I going? And we're like, we're going to the hospital. And she's like, no, like she really was ready, right? She was ready. She's like, no, like don't bring me, like let me, like just let it happen, right? And she's like scared, like terrified. But I was leaving that day, and like always, like when I'm about to leave, I'm like crying. And throughout, like every time like something would happen where like something would go wrong that week, I would wait until everyone walked away. It was just like me and my aunts and all cry. But you know, she got in the car and everyone gave her a hug and a kiss or whatever, because they're gonna be at home, like they're gonna be there when she came back if I was leaving. So like I gave her like a hug, and I was like, all right, Nan, I'll see you in December, because I always go down. I always go down after my semesters, right? Like after every semester I go down and see my grandmother. So I was like, I'll be back in December, Nan, like. And I think it sucked because looking at her, I knew that was gonna be the last time I saw her. That was like October. I remember I was just stressed out, and I was just like, that day in general just sucked, right? So I remember after that, like I flew home, and then like the girl that like I like or whatever, I texted her. I'm like, hey, like I'm flying into New York, like do you want me to like bring you home so you gotta take the train, blah blah blah. That day kind of sucked just because I was going through it, and like I couldn't really, like I wasn't mentally there, and like we kind of like this falling out in a way, like I don't know, it was like a bunch of BS, right? You know, whatever. Anyway, so that was like October-ish. Came back a week later, my grandfather, yeah, that was the end of October, early November. I don't remember the exact day. Came back, and I remember, I think I was back for a week. I remember my cousin had called me or texted me on Saturday, and she was like, hey, I just want to check in with you, see how you're doing, how you're holding up, blah blah blah. And I was like, yeah, I'm good. Or she was like, have you talked to Nan? And I was like, no, I haven't. Like, I think I'm just in denial. She's like, you should probably call her, like, you know, like, just don't avoid it, like, you know, just call her. And I was like, you're right. So that was like a Saturday, right? And then Sunday, I didn't call her that day, right? So then Sunday after, I'm like in bed and my phone rings and it's her, right? So I like jump up and I'm like, hey Nan, right? And she's like, hey Poop. She calls me Poop, right? I'm exposing a lot, right? She used to always say like, oh, when you're around your friends, I won't call you Poop. I'm like, Nan, you can call me whatever you want, I don't care. But Nan, she calls me Poop, right? So she's like, hey Poop, what are you doing? I'm like, hey Nan, you know, I'm just in bed, like procrastinating on studying, right? So she's just laughing or whatever, right? And then I was like, what are you doing? Right? She's like, oh no, you know, just sitting here, same old, right? So I was like, oh, so how are you feeling? And she's like, oh, I feel good today. And I'm like, oh, okay. So she was just like, how's school? And I'm like, school's good. Like, I got you know, a few more weeks of the semester, thank God, right? And she was just like, right? So then she was like, when are you graduating in, right? May, right? I was like, yeah, May 6th. I was like, you're gonna be there right now? And she was like, May, right? She was like, yeah. No, she was just like, May. And then she didn't say if she's gonna be there or not. Normally she does. She's like, normally when she always, every conversation she asks about the day I graduate. Even when I was there, at the time when I was there, I remember I said, Nan, I have exactly 200 days until graduation, right? And she was like, oh, okay. And she would be like, oh, because after that too, after she did call me, after she went to the hospital and everything, she called me. She was feeling better. She was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on, I didn't really remember you guys being there, like all this. She was fine for a little while, right? And then whatever. So that Sunday she called, and when I told her about graduation, she was just like, oh, okay. She's like, it's gonna be great, so proud of you. And like when she didn't say or confirm that she was gonna be there, I was just like, okay. So she, all right, so, and then she was just asking about, she goes, so how's that girl from New York? And I'm like, she's fine, we're just friends, right? And then she was like, oh, it's fine, like, you'll find somebody. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like, I'm not looking in, like, you know, I just think she's cute, right? She's like, yeah, she's pretty or whatever, right? And she would go, and she was like, whatever happened to this person? She started asking about like friends and past like relationships. She's like, have we talked to this person lately? Or, you know, how are they doing? Or like, what's going on with them, right? So we had like a really brief conversation or whatever. It lasted like a whole 20 minutes, right? And normally our conversations could last hours, right? But this one, it only lasts 20 minutes, right? So she was like, all right, I'm getting tired. I'm about to, you know, go lay down or whatever, right? So I was like, all right, Nan, I love you. And she was like, love you too. Hung up the phone. Tuesday came around, and my grandfather texted me while I was in class. And he was like, hey, are you in school? And I know that's like the red flag. Every time something goes wrong with my grandmother, one of my family members would text me or call me and be like, are you in class? And that's how I know it's gonna be something bad, right? So I replied, and I was like, what's up, right? He was like, oh, call me when you're free. So I like jumped out of class, right? It was like my first class of the day. It's like 9 a.m. So I like hopped out of my class and I like ran to like our student lounge, whoever, and I FaceTime him and I'm like, what's wrong? And he's just crying. They're in the hospital and he's just like, listen, I don't know what's going on. She doesn't remember me. She's like mad I'm here. Like she doesn't remember anything. Like, you know, I don't know what's happening, right? So he was like, I just want to see if she will, like, if seeing you would like jog whatever, right? So I'm like, all right, cool, right? So he puts the camera on her and I'm like, hey Nan. I'm like, hey Nan, what's up, right? Take my mask off. I'm like, what's up, Nan? Right? And then she goes, hi, right? And I'm like, what are you doing? Right? And she's like, nothing, right? She would like stalled and then she would answer, right? And then she's looking at the camera and she's looking at him and like she just looks scared. And I'm like, Nan, do you know who I am? Like, what's my name, right? And she's like looking at me, she's like who the hell? Like, who are you, right? And I'm just like, it's okay, like he'll remember it, like it's fine. Sorry, I also not have an ugly crying face, so that would like trigger me too to cry more, because I'm like, freak, I'm gonna have to edit so much out. Oh my god. So I'm like, it's fine, you don't have to remember me right now, right? So like my grandmother's crying and he's like, okay, I'm gonna call your aunts, call your mom. So I text my sister and I'm like, call Nan and like put Ella on the phone, see if like seeing Ella will trigger her memory. So she's like, okay. So I'm pretty sure like she tried to call or send a video or something, and then call, and then I had to get back to class, but I was like crying, so I'm just like in the student lounge forever, like just crying. And like my sister called my mom and she's like, something's wrong with Nan, she's not remembering anyone or whatever, right? So in the student lounge, I'm calling my best friend Kim, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so scared, like I want to go home. Like that day dragged so much because I'm in school from like 8 a.m. to like sometimes like 6 p.m. or like 7 p.m. it depends, right? So that day like really sucked, and I'm just like so scared the whole day. And he's giving me updates, and I guess she had like a blood clot in one of her main arteries, right? So they're like, we can either do this surgery. No, they're like, our main option to get rid of the blood clot, because she was also going septic, right? So like there wasn't blood going towards her to her leg, and she was going septic, and they're like, we could either amputate her leg or we could do the surgery. But if we do the surgery, she's not going to live outside of the surgery. So like obviously the only option was to amputate her leg. So like I guess she was in and out, or maybe she had like directives, but she declined the amputation, right? And I don't remember, I think I couldn't handle it anymore. So I think I emailed my director of my program, and I emailed my professor of my last class, and I'm like, hey, as you guys are aware, like, you know, that situation with my grandmother, and I just heard like some really devastating news, so I'm gonna leave early, right? So I think I like took an exam or did whatever in my second class, and then I left and I went home, right? So I go home, I go to my mom, and I'm like, have you talked to Tom, right? That's what we call him, we call him Tom, right? So I'm like, have you talked to Tom? Like, and she was like, yeah, like they're in the hospital. I'm like, no, like pick up your phone, they're trying to amputate her leg. And Nan's saying no, and she's septic, right? And she's like, what? And I'm like, answer your phone, like people have been trying to call you and you don't listen, you don't answer your phone, you don't have your ringer on, like this is an emergency situation. I'm getting frustrated. So I go downstairs, I come upstairs, my mom's like crying, she's like packing. So her mom like left the next day to go with my grandmother. My cousin left the next day to go and my aunt, right? And I couldn't afford to, like I couldn't afford a last minute ticket. It's like from Connecticut to Georgia, a last minute ticket is like ridiculous. Couldn't afford it on my own, and I wasn't gonna ask anyone, so, and it was fine. And like also the last time I was there in October, she told me, she's like, listen, like in the times that she was lucid, she was like, are you still in school? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, why are you here? And I'm like, they said I could take it off to come see you. And like there were times she would go in and out, and she was like, are you all of you guys here because I'm dying? And we're like, no, you're just sick, we got scared. And she's looking at me, and she was like, if this happens again and you're in school, do not come here, right? I'm like, man, you know I'm coming here. And she was like, I'm serious, like you gotta finish school. So I'm like, all right, whatever. But part of me too like knew with my mom rushing down there that was more than likely, especially like with her being septic and like she refusing treatment, and then now she's on hospice. I'm like, all right, it's about to happen. And then mentally I'm like, do I want to see that happen? Like, do I want to see her like that? Sorry, my camera like timed out for whatever reason. So I kind of didn't want to see her like that anyway. So yeah, so that was Tuesday. My mom went down on Wednesday. They were there for a while or whatever. I was just trying to keep busy with school and work. I ended up talking to my job about what happens like with bereavement, all that. So Thursday night, I'll start with Thursday night. Thursday night, for whatever reason, I'm out of work. I got to work at 10, and I'm like home, and like I'm tired but I can't fall asleep, right? Like I cannot sleep for anything, like, and I'm just like anxious, right? Like I'm very anxious. I did not go to sleep at all. It got to the point where I'm like up at 4 a.m. and I'm like, well, I'm going to the gym since I can't get anything. And I was like anxious and like I felt like depression coming on because I'm like, bro, like this is real, like with my grandmother, right? So I'm in the gym like Friday morning at this point, like just working out, you know, trying to feel better, like I'm feeling good. Come home, and like before I take a shower, my sister FaceTimes me and she's crying and she's like, oh, and before when my mom went down there, I told her, I'm like, listen, if I'm in school, because my mom got one-way ticket and was like, she's not gonna come back until Nan passes away, right? And I told my mom, I'm like, if she dies and you guys don't call me because you think I'm in school or I'm at work, I'm gonna be so mad. Like when it happens, someone needs to tell me because I'm gonna get mad if you don't. So my sister, she FaceTimes me. She's like, hey, have you talked to mommy? And I was like, no, why, what's up? And she was like, you should call and say your goodbyes to Nan because it doesn't look good, right? So I was just like, okay, right? So I call, I'm trying to like have a steady voice. So I call my mom, she didn't answer, but then my cousin FaceTimes me. And she's like, hey, and I'm like, you know, they're all at the hospital, like around her bed, they're crying or whatever. And then she's like, you want to like see Nan? You want to talk to Nan? I'm like, you know, I want to talk to Nan, but I don't want to see her, right? So they just put the phone by her and I was just talking and I was crying and like telling her whatever. So that was like maybe like 8 a.m. or something, right? So then I'm like trying to distract myself. I'm on FaceTime with my friends. And then I'm like, all right, well, in the meantime, I'm going to the store, right? I go to the store, so I got stuff to eat for later, for the weekend. So my sister was like, oh, I need a distraction, like what are you doing, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm about to, no, my sister, yeah, she was like, I need a distraction, like we just come over and we can just hang out and like, you know, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm about to go to the store. And she was like, oh, I'll go with you, right? So I'm like, all right, cool, I'll wait for you to come over. And my sister lives 7 minutes away. So like 10 minutes go by and she's like, oh, are you still home? I'm like, yeah. And she was like, all right, I'm coming over, but I'm gonna leave Elle home instead of bringing her, right? So I was like, okay, cool, it's fine, like I'll be here. So I'm on the like FaceTime with my friend and I'm like, I feel like my sister's coming over to tell me she died. She's like, oh no, don't say that. I'm like, I feel it, like I could tell, like I could feel it, like I knew. So my sister comes over, I get in the car, I look over at my sister and she just has like this face and like she's just quiet. So I was like, she died, didn't she? She's like, yeah. So I hang up the phone with my friend or whatever. I'm just like sobbing in the car. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, I don't want my groceries anymore. I'm just gonna go take a nap. So she's like, are you sure you don't want me to come in with you? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. So I go in the house. I make it like to where my bookcase is. And I just like collapse. I'm like sobbing. My dog is whining, right? And I'm like sobbing so hard. I call my dad. And I'm like, I tell him what happened. And he's like, all right, I'm coming. So like he's gonna drive over. I'm sitting on my bed. My sister like comes in. I feel like my mom or someone told her to like make sure I'm alright. So she comes in, she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, and also because like she's my younger sister, like sometimes I'm like hesitant to like really break down in front of her. So I'm just like, it's fine, I'm fine, I swear, like just go home, I'm fine, right? So she's like, all right. So eventually she leaves because I was like, my dad's coming over, like it's fine, like you can go home. So she leaves and I'm like literally like it was the strangest pain ever. And I'm like sobbing and like I ended up calling my best friend that lives in Missouri. I'm like sobbing and she's crying. I'm like so hurt. I'm like so hurt, but like also towards the end she wasn't herself, so like it was like relief a little bit. So Anyway, so the funeral happened a week later. I had called out from work. I didn't go to work that weekend. The funeral happened like the next Saturday or whatever, and like the funeral was like a lot of closure that I need. The funeral was really hard, not gonna lie. The funeral was really hard to get through, and then we had like a repast, which was good. Being around my family helped, so that was like good closure. And then after, like, I felt more like comfort and relief after all that. And then I feel like definitely in the time that she got really sick to like time she passed, I was just like very like anxious and like nervous and stressed and like very like passive aggressive and mean to people. And then like especially after she passed, between the time she passed and the funeral, I was just mean to everyone. Like, I felt it and I couldn't help it. I was just very mean, very aggravated with everything. After funeral, I felt more like myself in a way, for lack of better words. But it's just been very hard. It's been very, very hard. Like, I feel like even in the time of her passing to the funeral, that week I had very unhealthy coping habits. Like, I would drink all the time or whatever. I would drink all the time. I was trying to do some crazy stuff. Like, I ain't gonna say it on camera. Like, I was just being reckless. And that week I was being reckless and mean to people. So yeah, I'm definitely glad I had that closure. And then like it got to a point where too, like, it was like the Tuesday after she had passed away, and I went to school, and I got drunk with my friends after class. I was like really drunk, and I swear her spirit was next to me waking me up, because there's no way I went from being blacked out drunk on the train to waking up just in time for my stop, right? And then like it was crazy that day. Like, it was like an ex and the ex's ex or the ex's girlfriend, I don't know. The crazy woman hit me up. I'm drunk as hell, still in my very mean habit. I said some wild stuff on that call. And like, I told my sister about it. I sent me screenshots or whatever. My sister, she mad. Like, my sister got mad, and like my other family members, they found out about it, about the situation, about what the girl was saying about the ex. They found out all this information in a matter of hours, right? And I feel like my whole family's eyes were on me, because like I was the closest one to my grandmother, and they're like, bro, like, you are not about to get like harassed. Just a few days after she passed, these people are not about to harass you. So they start harassing the girl, start harassing my ex. Like, some of them are planning on going to New York. It was a lot. And like, it got to the point where we all calmed down, but that definitely ended that friendship. And so that was what it was. But yeah, it's been a few weeks now, a couple weeks. I've been trying to get through it. I've been going to school, going to work. And like, sometimes in school it would suck, because I'll be sitting there and I'm like, why am I even here? Why am I stressed about graduating on time if she's not even gonna be there to watch it? Or, you know, but then also I'm like, it's time for me to get out of school. It's time for me to graduate. I already, like, originally I was like, when I graduate, I was gonna move out of state. I was gonna move to like Atlanta so I could be closer to Nan or whatever. But then she passed away, and then my grandfather at first was like, he's gonna move up here because like it'll be good to see, because she's buried up here. So he was like, it'd be good to go visit her all the time and then like, you know, be with people. And then he's still up here. He's still up here. He's going back Saturday. But then he was telling me the other day, he's like, you know, I don't think I'll be able to move up here, because like it's just too many memories, right? Because they're from here, right? So it was just too many memories, he said. So he doesn't think he'll move up here. He'll probably stay down there. And then he was like, listen, when you graduate and you do things for you, don't let other people or situations determine what you do, right? More so him just being like, listen, just because I'm down here don't mean you gotta move down here, right? So I don't know as far as when I graduate what I'm doing anymore. Like, as far as like where I'm gonna work, or what state I'm gonna live in, or if I'm gonna commute to New York. Because at one point I was like, maybe I could like move to New York, and I'm like, I never wanted to move to New York. Like, not even cost of living, but rent is high. Like, I would never want to get a house in New York. I would never want to, no. Like, I'll get like an apartment in New York, but even then it's like expensive for no reason. So I was like, all right, cool, I could live in Connecticut and work in New York and just commute. So that is an option. because I don't even really want to work in Connecticut either, but I just feel like living closer, like for the first year or two, would help, just so like I could save up, pay things off, figure out exactly where I want to go, travel to different places, figure out where I want to go. I need to figure out what I'm doing in this month after the semester, because literally after every semester I would go down there. So I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna chill. Part of me was like, oh, I should travel. Like I might like do road trips or whatever for December. Go to like spas or different things. Like I just really want to do a lot of solo stuff, because like I don't got anyone I could bring. My best friend lives in a different state. Most of my friends live in different states. I have some friends from school, but like we don't hang out outside of school like that. My mom asked me about graduation party, and I'm like, no. Like, since me and dad, I really don't want one, but she's trying to force me to have one, or she's gonna throw one anyway, and I'm just like, whatever, I'll be there, I guess. But I think after I graduate, or even the time between the last day of class and graduation, I might take like a solo trip somewhere. I'm not sure where exactly, but I'll take a solo trip somewhere. I don't know. But yeah, because like, I don't know, I just need to do things I want to do, I guess. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know, I'm working through it. Some days I'm good, some days I'm sad as hell. And then like I'm taking a psych class right now, and like they're going over all these topics that are very triggering to not only this situation but past situations, right? And like I'm just an emotional mess. So I've just been struggling, but I'm like, I got 2 weeks left of this semester. I don't know. I'm also trying to figure out healthy habits. I'm like, after, because my period just started, so I'm like, after this week I'll probably start waking up like early on days I don't have to go to New York and like work out. You know, like probably exercise in the morning, make breakfast, study, whatever, right? Because I also want to slim down, you know. So this is part of my, I don't know, what is it, regeneration? I don't know, just trying to be healthy, because also I was eating a lot. I went from like not eating the first couple of days after she passed to like eating everything, right? But it would like be on and off. Like one day I'll eat a whole bunch of stuff, next 2 days I wouldn't eat anything at all, then I'll eat a whole bunch of stuff, and then whatever. So yeah, I gained a little weight. I started losing it though somehow, because like I feel like I'm more so on balance right now. What else? I don't know, because I don't really like, I'll have friends from school, they'll like check up on me. My best friend, she checks up on me like every day. I don't know. I'm going out to eat with my grandfather tomorrow morning though, because he has surgery. And that was the other thing, like after, like right before the funeral, he had to get like an emergency surgery on his gallbladder, so that was scary. So he has to go back tomorrow for like a checkup, and then once they say he's good, he's going back home. So tomorrow morning I told him we could go get breakfast together. But yeah, I feel like this video is long enough. I'm not really gonna go into my personal life or anything like that as far as like dating, because I'm not dating anyone. Like, I'm never dating anyone. I'm just messing around. Then I cut off so many people, and I'm just like, I'm just me chilling. But now it is 10:48. I have a few hours to study before I have to go to work. So I'm gonna do that. I'm a little hungry. I might eat in a little bit, I don't know. But yeah, maybe I'll give another video once the semester is over about everything else. But I'm gonna go now. So I don't really know, this isn't really a video where I really care if you like it or comment on it. But it's here. That's what I've been going through. That's why I've been gone for a while. I keep saying my life is a freaking joke. But hey, what can you do? All right, well, I'm gonna go now. I will hopefully be back soon to talk to you guys about whatever is on my mind. So yeah, bye.